welcome. You are watching Fourth Estate right here on ZTN Prime, channel 294 on DSTV, and I'm your host, Wadzanai Sansole. Now, today we zoom in on a critical topic that's been doing the rounds. Are Zimbabweans media literate? We live in an era where information is everywhere. Breaking news is literally at your fingertips, and algorithms are silently deciding what we see and what we believe. Now, misinformation and disinformation are now widespread as a result of this. From WhatsApp groups to primetime news to trending hashtags, the line between truth and fake news has become increasingly blurred. This is where the concept of media literacy now becomes vital, because it is more than just fact checking. It's about understanding how media is created, who creates it, and what's the purpose for it. As the media landscape continues to evolve with artificial intelligence, deepfakes, influencer culture, and algorithm-driven content, the urgency to foster media-savvy citizens becomes even more pronounced. So on this episode on Fourth Estate, we ask, what exactly is media literacy? What does it entail? Are Zimbabweans equipped to critically engage with the information that they consume? And what role should schools, journalists, regulators, and civil society play in building a media literate Zimbabwe? So our discussion today is fighting fake news. Is media literacy the solution? So to discuss this and more, I'm joined in the studio today by Farisai Chaniwa, the team leader from Media Monitors Zimbabwe. Hi Farisai, welcome to Fourth Estate.
Hi Watson, thank you for having me today.
Thank you very much for joining us and coming to shed light on this topic of media literacy. I think let's just start from there. Let's just break it down. What is media literacy?
So basically, media literacy, as you said in your introduction, is basically understanding how the media works. You want to, it looks at issues to do with access to media. What media sources do you have? It looks at issues to do with analyzing that content or that information that you have access to. And then it also looks at issues to do with evaluation. Is this true? Is it not? There it goes further to look at how content is created or how news is created. Basically understanding all that whole process for the purposes of being able to engage with the news and for critical analysis of news and also civic engagement.
Now, Farisai, talk to me about the current state of media literacy in Zimbabwe right now. When we look at the rise of misinformation, particularly on social media and platforms like WhatsApp and Facebook, many Zimbabweans consume and share unverified content. This has been happening a lot lately. And what trends have media monitors observed regarding the public's ability to critically assess information?
As media monitors, we have noted that access to information has improved greatly. I mean, we have seen the rise of community newspapers, community radio stations as well. However, the ability of the public to actually critically analyze that news or that information that they get from these media platforms still remains very low. So the trend there is that they still need for more education or more civic engagement around understanding the media itself.
Now, Farisai, seeing that young people are among the heaviest consumers of digital content these days, and looking at how schools, not all of them are actually teaching critical media skills at the moment, do you believe that media literacy should be integrated into Zimbabwe's education system?
Thank you, Wadzanai, for that question. I'll answer it as a mother. As a mother, I believe that it's very important for, education or the school's curriculum to even include it at a very young age, because we have we call them Google babies nowadays that are born literally with a cell phone in their hands. They know how to navigate the cell phone more than I do most of the time. There are things that they'll correct you or me with, that I wouldn't have even known were possible with my own cell phone. So it's very important for, the young ones to understand that not everything that you see on the phone is true. Not everything that you hear from an influencer is necessarily the correct way to live your life. So it's very important to include it in the educational curriculum from a very, even ECDA, they introduced ECDA, which is where they start to know the phone. So definitely yes.
And then when critics bring in the whole aspect of media literacy having to actually begin in the newsrooms before we can start looking at other things of verifying information, then there's inaccuracies, ethical lapses, and a lack of fact-checking that often points to internal capacity issues within the media itself. Are journalists receiving adequate training to uphold media literacy standards?
I think in terms of journalistic training, it remains uneven. You'll find that if you're placed in a newsroom or a formal newsroom, you've got better chances of accessing more training in terms of media literacy, in terms of fact-checking, in terms of even, that renewal of your schooling to do with ethical code of conduct and etc. But whereas you have other journalists, for example, in our community radio stations, for example, they have less access to such training. You've also got the rise of citizen journalism, which has become a huge problem. That is definitely one of the root causes of misinformation and disinformation. So you find that if you are in a formal setting like ZTN, here we are, you have access to that, but the one who's not in a newsroom or a media publication or media house doesn't have that training, so it remains unfair. And yeah, definitely.
Okay, and then from your findings, are journalists themselves actually media literate in this digital age?
With this digital age, there comes a lot of challenges. So yes, there's always room to remind each other in terms of some of these ethical considerations when it comes to the digital age, because most, from my knowledge, most training was around our mainstream media, but as we go into this digital age, new things are popping up. Like you were talking about algorithms, learning to even understand how those algorithms are stealing information from us on a daily basis. Learning to even understand how to write a story with ChatGPT or something like that. So a lot of that, there are thin lines being crossed ethically when it comes to news production, whether you are in a formal setting or you're not.
Now, Farisai, we see Zimbabwe as a multicultural and multilingual nation, yet mainstream media often fails to reflect the diversity of voices, especially youth, women, and rural communities. Now, with rural communities increasingly getting their news through social media platforms, especially like WhatsApp, how are these communities affected by information disorders?
Okay, these communities are heavily affected by information disorders because, like you said, most of their information sources is WhatsApp. From WhatsApp, it goes to word of mouth. And with word of mouth, the biggest pitfall with word of mouth is I hear something, I will add my own little spice to it. Then the next person I give it to adds their own. So by the time it gets to the 20th or 10th person, it's already changed, or the story is already manipulated in its own way. So they are heavily affected, and it really then limits their capability to engage with issues that actually then involve them in their communities where they are.
So how can these marginalized communities be protected in this regard of with the advancing of media literacy?
How can they be protected? Well, I wouldn't say protected, but more how can they be helped? First of all, like we said, definition of media literacy, access to information. Because if you have access to only one source, like the WhatsApp that you said, or the person who's going to tell me what's happening, if you have access to one source, you are limited in terms of the number of sources that you can verify that information with. So definitely increasing the access to information is very critical for community. And then also increasing their own ability to criticize or to critically analyze that information that they're getting, because it's not about just hearing and then saying, no, this is true because I heard it from, because they have a WhatsApp phone. But it's more about, okay, they said this, but could it be true? But the only way you can be able to actually start analyzing or even start thinking is if you have access to more sources of information. Yeah.
And then this whole concept of media literacy can be viewed as elitist by some, something only journalists, academics, and urban youth talk about. How important is it to tailor media literacy campaigns in local languages?
It's very important because we want to reach everyone. Media literacy is not for just the elite, the journalists, the media practitioners, but everyone. It is every citizen's right to be able to understand information, critically analyze it, and put it into their own context, so to say. Therefore, they can be able to use that information to make decisions. So without their ability to critically analyze information, their decision-making is very limited. So it's very, very important for media literacy to be very inclusive and reach as many people as possible.
Now, you spoke about the citizen reporting earlier on, and then we also look at the rise of influencers and bloggers. Zimbabwe recently faced that national debate around who is a journalist, and it's still like an ongoing debate. Why is promoting professional journalism a key part of your media literacy campaigns?
Professional journalism is all about ethical, credible, unbiased reporting. It is governed by a given code of conduct. So it's very important for us to promote professional journalism as it will ensure that citizens are getting the right information.
All right. And then now, Farisai, the global media landscape is rapidly changing. Hard to keep up with sometimes, with new threats to truth and transparency emerging from AI-generated content to deep fakes, right? Now, in your assessment, is the Zimbabwean media prepared for these future challenges?
We are yet to be prepared. I would say we have only just started scrapping the surface because what AI is bringing, or the challenges AI is bringing, are digital in nature. And because as Zimbabwean, or even as Africa, we haven't reached that digital age maturity for us to be able to deal with most of the challenges that AI will present. AI is a global north sort of invention, and it's only starting to trickle down into the global south, which means that we have to get to a place where we can tailor-make digital solutions for AI challenges. So until we get there, we've got quite a long road to go, definitely.
So still on this journey that a lot of people are faced with, there's also the highly debated issue around making a profit and maintaining journalistic integrity, Farisai. From your assessment, is it possible to reconcile the commercial interests of media, the media houses, with the public's need for reliable, educational, and unbiased content?
Yeah, it's very possible. Though it will take a lot of energy, if I could put it that way, or it may be challenging to get there, but it's very possible. A media house needs to ensure credibility, ensure that non-biased approach, ensure editorial independence, and also be able to ensure that their audience trusts them. Because with trust, eventually you will find, you can call trust a long-term investment, to be honest. With trust, you're guaranteed that audience will constantly come back to you, bringing in that revenue that you're looking into. I think it's up to media houses to look into diversifying as much as possible, but while maintaining their integrity, maintaining that credibility, maintaining that the ethical conduct, maintaining that credibility within the society. That way, money will always follow good things. Yeah.
Now, Farisa, you emphasized the point that the audiences actually trust the media houses. So in the instances where some journalists go rogue and violate ethical standards, what ways can citizens actually use their media literacy skills to hold journalists accountable?
Okay. So, of course, one has to obviously go through the different stages of media, analyzing the media content before they can even go and report. You have to make sure that you have the facts to say, no, this journalist went rogue and they did publish a wrong thing. With facts, there's so many remedies that one can take. One can actually approach the media house itself. Most media houses are supposed to have transparency desks that are called umbuzo. Yeah, umbuzo. So most of these houses have that desk where you can go and complain and say, no, this journalist went rogue. There's also the Voluntary Media Council of Zimbabwe, where you can also go and actually lodge a complaint with them to say that this journalist stepped beyond the ethical bounds, so to say, and they would actually then be able to remedy that. You can also go through the ZMC. So there are definitely so many remedies within the Zimbabwean media space.
All right. And then, Farisai, now let's talk about entertainment media. Things like films, music, videos, skits, TikTok, all the likes. These also shape the values and perceptions out there in the world. Do you think media literacy should also extend to how we understand and critique pop culture?
Most definitely, like you rightly said, pop culture has become us. We are literally very susceptible to what pop culture has to tell us. We are gullible when it comes to pop culture. It's very easy to fall into the trap simply because you constantly hear a song every day and you end up thinking that, no, this is right. So definitely media literacy has to even transcend into that sort of entertainment industry as well, because without understanding or without the ability to critically understand or critically analyze a program, a skit, whatever, a TikTok message, we would be getting ourselves into so much trouble. Like we said, media literacy helps individuals make critical decisions, and pop culture influences critical decisions within our social lives. So most definitely, media literacy becomes a very powerful tool that will guide people and will help us, even maintain our own moral values as we go by.
Now, Farisa, just before we close off the show, if someone's watching right now and they want to join the fight against fake news and also want to be media literate, what would you say to them? Any last words?
Okay, I would say, look, if you're interested in media literacy, good for you. It's very important to understand what the media is telling you. Don't just take the media at face value. It's not everything that is out there that is true. Verify information at all times. Before you even tell a friend, make sure you know for a fact that this is true. Because fake news, misinformation, disinformation is really destroying lives.
Thank you very much, Farisa, for joining us here on Fourth Estate.
Thank you, Wadzanai, for having me. It was a pleasure.
Great. And that brings us to the end of our show this week, where we were looking at, is media literacy the solution in fighting fake news? And I was joined in the studio by Farisai Chaniwa, the team leader from Media Monitors Zimbabwe. Thank you very much for watching. I've been your host, Wadzanai Sansole. Pleasant viewing.
Hello, I'm Dr. Anes Umachamire, and today I'm going to do a demonstration of whitening on our patient, Erika Ndoro. So when we whiten our teeth, we are basically removing the stain that accumulates in our teeth over time. As you know, the white part of your teeth is called enamel. It's a little bit porous. So when you drink your red wines, your teas, your coffee, over time, your teeth take a little bit of that stain. So when you're whitening your teeth, that's what we are removing. But who can be whitened? It's that extrinsic stain I was talking about that you find out on the outer layer of your teeth. Why am I specifically talking about the intrinsic stain? Because the extrinsic stain, you can also have an intrinsic stain, which can be caused by medication and stuff like that. That whitening will not help much on. So first, if you think you need whitening, you come for consultation. We check your teeth out, we see if they can actually be whitened. Because there are some people with those stains, those yellow stains, we call them fluorosis. Sometimes it's very severe. It's something that happens to your teeth as they are forming. Whitening won't deal with that. But the stains that come over because of our habits and what we are eating along the way, all right, you can open wide. So this thing is going to pull your cheeks to the side.